Jack, you went off camera, but you were brave enough to go on camera to begin with. So we'll start with you. Jack McCarthy, can you tell us your major, your year in school, and why you took this course, please?
Um, I'm a business communications major in my third year. I took this class because, in business, it's good to know like how to actually start one out and what that looks like, and like what the process of actually like gathering people to get interested in what you're doing looks like.
It's a good answer. Excellent. Well, it's good to have a non-engineer in here. This class is heavy with engineers, so you're a business communications major. A lot of value in that. We need people with all kinds of unique, different backgrounds to make a business work. Aaron Welker. Aaron, I hate to put you on the spot, but would you be so
Hi.
kind to tell us your year in school, your major, and why you took this class?
My name's Erin. I'm a third year sustainability student, and I took this class because it was a program requirement for me to learn about entrepreneurship, and this seemed like a great way to get some experience.
Good answer. Excellent. So you said you were a sustainability major?
That's correct.
Interesting. So I did not realize that was a major, but it makes sense. A lot has changed since my days as an undergrad. Um, Tell me about sustainability. What do you study there? What that seems like a very unique mix of how do I say it? Uh, Themes and categories that kind of go into sustainability. Is that what school is that part of?
The College of Global Futures.
College of Global Futures, sustainability major. Interesting. And what do you hope to do with that degree upon graduation?
Right now I'm studying sustainable urban dynamics, so maybe something with urban planning, but I'm also interested in outdoor education.
Outdoor education. Aaron, it sounds like you are primed to live a very interesting life. That is super cool that you're doing such a, well, to me, what seems unconventional, but again, I was an undergrad 20 some years ago. Um, as someone who lives in an urban environment where there's just so many challenges, I can tell you people who are dedicated to learning how to build smarter urban environments will be in high demand because the world is increasingly urbanizing, so people can cluster where the greatest economic opportunities are. So good luck to you, and I'm glad you took an entrepreneurship course because ultimately that's where all the exciting stuff is happening. There's a lot of stuff exciting happening at Meta and Google and Amazon, of course, and all the big AI companies. But I promise you, as someone who's done the big company and the small company, um, as you get out there in the world of work, you'll find that the most exciting things are usually happening with the smallest groups of people innovating at the very edge of creativity. Um, Sultan, that's a great name. Same question. Your major, your year in school, and why you took this course before we dig into my presentation for the day. Sultan, are you there? Can you hear me? If not, we'll move on to one other person. You may not be able to come off mute. Okay, Khalid Al Wahabi. I hope I said that right.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I sure did. Okay, same question.
hmm
Your major, your year in school, and why you took this course.
Pursuing computer science with concentration with cybersecurity, and I go to ASU. I took this class because, to be honest, I just wanna an A plus because it's an easy A plus, and just to see how it's, you know, this is my first time taking a business class though.
What has your thoughts been about your first time in a business class?
Uh, I don't know. I think I'm not interested in business classes.
It's made you more interested.
Yep, of course.
Excellent. Good. Well, cybersecurity is hugely important. That's the industry I work in today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like a just a modern game of cops and robbers, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's just incredible. It's just hugely intellectually stimulating to see what goes on, like layers
Yep,
deep into the web. Uh, Good guys and bad guys kind of duking it out. It's
yep.
just super, and we need smart people like you out there, hopefully
No,
on
I'm
the
not
right.
smart though. I'm not one of them. I'm just trying, you know.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and I
Yeah, of course.
appreciate everyone being able to speak up and share a little bit about their background. What I find so interesting here, as we heard from Khalid and from Aaron and from Jack, is people's diverse backgrounds. And I think that's what makes business such an interesting, both major and human endeavor. I can tell you that I have had the great pleasure to work at great big companies with tens of thousands of people, and at very small companies with dozens of people. And it, I can promise you, the mix of people we have in this virtual room right now is what it usually looks like in a real business environment, which is people who are good at sales, people who are good at product, people who are good at implementation, people who are good at support, people who are good at operations. You need all these incredible, smart people with unique disciplines coming together, collaborating, um, and finding ways to solve problems for clients in order to create revenue and ultimately move our society forward, whether it's in cybersecurity or sustainability or business, what have you. So the group we have today and the few of you I talked to is exactly what it's like in real business, right? So this is why this is a great course for you all, because as you get out in the work world, you will find that you rarely are just with all engineers or with all salespeople or with all business people. You'll find that you'll have to blend and mix with all kinds of different people and be highly collaborative in order to be successful. Okay, so that is a 10-minute intro as we let the late arrivals arrive late. Those of you who are late, remember when you get out in the real world, it is frowned upon. One must be on time in order to keep your reputation sterling, get your new opportunities to move up and onward in the work world. Okay, all of that said, well, we got more people arriving late. My point still stands. Be on time. It's the easiest thing you can do to look professional in life. I promise you. Okay. I'm going to share my screen and walk through just a couple of slides about my career and as it relates to the 7 C's. What I'm basically here to do is actualize the 7 C's in a way that demonstrates how we do this in the real business world. Not that university is not real; it very much is, because you guys are learning incredibly important skills. But you know what I mean. Places where the end client pays you good money, and where you're competing in a marketplace to win every single day, right? And I'll show just a couple of brief examples with you as we go through this deck. So let me share my screen. Okay. Please tell me you can see my screen. Will someone please speak up and say I see it?
I see your screen.
Thank you very much. Okay. We are winding our way through the semester now, and we're at the point where we're going to talk about creating value. This is really where all the other C's converge and what the client is most concerned with. They are not going to turn over their money until they felt value has been received. So it's easy to have a great idea. It's hard to bring that idea to market, but it's really, really hard to make sure the client sees value, because value is like measured every single day in the way the client sees your product and your the way you support your product. And so I'm going to bring to bear a couple of examples of how we provided value in a past couple of jobs I had. Before I do that, I always like to talk about language. So as we started this presentation, I talked about the value of being on time. Someone smarter than I once said 90% of life is showing up on time with the right haircut. I would add to that just the right like clothes and shoes and so on, right? Just looking appropriate and being on time shows that you respect everybody else's time. After that, after you've done that basic 90% showed up on time with the right haircut, the other 10% is what I'm doing right now, which is the careful selection and curation of words. When you get out into the work world, you will be judged, appreciated, valued, or disparaged and shown the door perhaps through your ability to craft language that is thoughtful, influential, and impactful. And to that end, much of language is centered around both word selection and then tone and inflection. And I think this is just hugely important because they don't teach enough of this in undergrad or grad school. I went to undergrad and grad school and I took one course on public speaking, but when you get out into the work world, this is what you're judged on. The way you talk, the way others perceive you, and the way you present, right? And so as I've gone through some of my earlier presentations, I've talked about words that you should avoid and words that you should use. And so this is just the latest iteration of that. So in this case, before we get into the concepts of creating value, I'd like to talk about the word objection. And what I'm going to tell you is I object to your using the word objection. Anytime you use that, it's just like a negative word that delivers some sort of negative connotation, even if you're using it in a neutral way or to explain a situation. Often in a sales pursuit or a marketing pursuit, you might say, oh, I understand your objection. However, I want to explain this, or that's a fair objection. However, you might not have considered this. Instead, you can use words like, I understand your area of concern or your concern. I understand there may be challenges we have to overcome. I appreciate there are hurdles that we need to overcome to achieve success together. Using language that is soft around the edges demonstrates a high degree of intelligence about driving and steering a conversation away from a harsh tone and towards a softer and more malleable tone. So I bring this up because I want you all to be thoughtful in the way you both write emails, write letters. We can't use ChatGPT and Claude for everything. Ultimately, we have to have our own voices appear as authentic in the work that we do. And to that end, words like objection should be avoided. I hope as we go through this process. I just had someone else arrive late, I think. Was I sharing my screen there? You guys were seeing the screen, right? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so back to the creating of value. Thank you for the thumbs up. So I'm going to talk about two specific places where we've created value in my career. The first was a company I worked for called SonicU that did temperature monitoring, which is a niche of a niche of a niche of a product that you might not think about. I certainly didn't, but is hugely valuable to a very specific set of clients. And in this case, we did temperature monitoring in controlled environments that held food, drugs, or some kind of healthcare product. So think about at a hospital, you have everything from plasma to blood to tissues to organs to vaccines to you name it, that are highly temperature sensitive, meaning they need to be stored in highly specific temperature ranges or they lose their potency. And even worse, they might become dangerous to be injected into a patient. The same goes for food. We all know this, right? You can't leave certain food out in the heat or it gets bad. And if you eat it, you get sick. And so what we did at SonicU was created sensors that went inside of a temperature device, i.e. a fridge or a freezer, and would send you an alert via your phone when it went out of spec. What did this allow you to do? Right? Obviously, protect your food from becoming dangerous to be consumed. But in the case of when you do this at scale, you can waste less food. This is obvious as we talk about it, but it's your job as an entrepreneur and as a business person to make sure the client understands this as you're walking through a marketing or sales process, right? So we sold this product to many school districts. I'm sure many of you were in high school, middle school not that long ago, where you had a cafeteria with a fridge and a freezer, maybe multiple fridges and freezers. And they would, inside of those, place these same temperature monitors, because imagine you're in Phoenix and the freezer dies on a Saturday in August. It's not taking long for all the tater tots and French bread pizza to go really bad inside that freezer and cause thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in waste. That is called the creation of value. When you install a $80 sensor with a $10 subscription and prevent thousands of dollars in loss, right? And it's your ability to both innovate this product and then explain the value of it in a way people understand and explain the urgency of it that creates value for people. And ultimately, this just doesn't help people prevent the loss of food, but it increases the profitability of a business, right? If you're a small business, think about all the restaurants we might like to go to. And you've got a freezer full of spare ribs and chicken breasts and pork chops and so forth. And on a Saturday afternoon in the summer, the freezer dies and they're about to have one of their busiest Saturdays where they make most of their revenue and most of their profit, but they can't because they lost it all to a freezer excursion. Their profitability decreases enormously, right? So it's your ability to both create products and then explain the value of them to people in such a way that you talk about both avoiding loss and increasing profitability via your solution. You have to frame things throughout the way and across the way the customer sees themselves existing, i.e., right, making more money and reducing risk. This is what we did at SonicU. There's many companies that do this. And as you're making your product and your solution, as you're out in the business world, I urge you to try to think about both the positive things your product delivers and the negative things it helps the client avoid. To that end, now we move on to nuclear verdicts. If you've been in my past lectures, you know we've spoken a lot about this as it relates to dash cams and vehicle cameras. There is a horrible trend in this country in which very sophisticated, very organized, very malicious gangs, and I call them gangs not loosely, but these are criminal gangs, cause intentional accidents with 18-wheeler semi-trucks in order to sue them and claim what's called nuclear verdicts, i.e., you run your truck, you run your Honda Civic in front of a semi-truck, cause an accident, you get out with a limp, and while you cause the accident on purpose, you sue that semi-truck company's insurance company for $2 million, even though your vehicle sustained minor damage. This happens every single day. How do we create value? We create value by helping people avoid these challenges, i.e., explaining to them when you're buying a dash camera, You're not just protecting your driver from the vagaries of the road. You're not just helping law enforcement figure out what is and isn't happening in an accident. You are potentially protecting yourself from a verdict that can destroy your business. This happens every single day across North America. There are untold number of small businesses that were often started 30, 40, 50 years ago and passed down through families of trucking companies. I promise you, not far from where you're sitting now in the greater Phoenix area, there's a trucking company that moves, whether it's pharmaceuticals or food products or furniture or hardware from Los Angeles or San Diego or Albuquerque, or you get it, right? And this is how the whole world works, is on the back of logistics, moving things around. And many of these companies have been bankrupted by these accidents, by these criminal gangs. So we created a dash camera and a system that allows you to, on your phone, immediately retrieve the video evidence from an accident. Right? So you're a truck driver, someone causes an intentional accident, law enforcement shows up. They are more than likely going to believe the person who says the truck swerved in front of them, unless and until you can literally go to your phone and say, nope, I've got the instant replay. The evidence is right here. That person swerved in front of me. And you can save a family business, because oftentimes these accidents can be that devastating to a family business. This is called creating value. When you're not just avoiding nuclear verdicts, but the result of the nuclear verdict is the destruction of a family business through the purchase of a $200 dash camera and a $20 a month subscription to be able to view that video on your mobile app. So this is how we create value in the real world. And I stress real world because you all now live in this wonderful place where you're just in this learning environment. But as you mature out of this and go make a living, you'll find the world is intensely competitive and sometimes wildly unfair, like you see in these nuclear verdicts. And it's your job to create products and services, market and sell them, and serve your clients in a way that they see persistent value to continue to pay for them. Okay, with that said, we're going to come back to our important words to say and not to say. The most important thing I want to stress here to the students is language is everything. The way you write, the way you speak, the things you don't say will have a huge impact on the amount of money you make, the way you're perceived in the workplace, your ability to climb into new roles, your ability to lead people, your ability to achieve your aspirations. So much of it will be predicated on your ability to communicate well. And I can't stress to you enough how much of that is subject to choosing the right words at the right time with the right tone. So I urge all of you to be thoughtful as you go about writing your emails and not relying too much on AI. I know it's an incredible tool. I use it every day myself. It's wildly improved my productivity and my ability to be analytical and all those important things. But ultimately, as you move through the professional world, it's the thing I'm doing today, which is presenting to you all, speaking, which is what will move your career forward. And AI, at least in its current iteration, cannot do that for you. And it certainly can't do it when you're in a unique environment, operating far from your phone or computer, which is where you want to be, hopefully, in this world. So again, avoid the word objection and defer to area of concern, challenge, or hurdle. Okay, with that said, we just covered a whole bunch of stuff. It's been 27 minutes. I'm sorry to keep you all that long. I usually like to go 10 or 15. I appreciate you all joining, and hopefully you found value in this. And please catch with me on LinkedIn as well. I will send that link around to the group. And I wish you all well in the rest of the semester.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.